My name is James Kelly, born and raised in St. Paul, Minnesota. I left 2 weeks after high school graduation to join the United States Air Force, kind of on a whim. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, and then someone recommended the military, and I was like, yeah, but kind of went on a whim and just enlisted. It turned out to be the best decision in my life. So I joined the Air Force and went off to basic training, went off to tech school where I learned my job. I got to be a bioenvironmental engineering technician, which during my time, we were the guys with the big bubbly hazmat suits. It was a big anthrax era. I was in from 2004 to 2010. Just about a year and a half into my enlistment, I was in a motorcycle accident, and I actually broke my neck. Had emergency surgery to have my neck fused, and then my commander met me in the hospital and told me that they were going to med board me and discharge me. For some reason, I asked my commander if there was a way that I could stay in, because I really wanted to complete my enlistment. And he said that as long as I stayed deployable ready, and passed my PT exams, I could do it. So I said, yes, sir. And every 6 months when we had a PT test, I would make sure I was ready to tolerate the pain by taking my prescribed painkillers. And at that point, I didn't know what addiction was. I hadn't even had my first beer yet. But by the time I was 21, I would take my PT exam by taking a handful of pills first. In that way, I was able to complete my 6-year enlistment. But by the time I got out, I realized I was full-blown addiction. It was a long road, but I was prescribed the heaviest of heaviest painkillers. When I was getting out of the military, I had a whole plan of moving home, and I was already enrolled at the University of Minnesota pre-med. I wanted to become a doctor, a physician. It was always my dream. So I started going to the University of Minnesota, but at this time, transferring from the military to back home, I had to find a new pain doctor. I found one, and this is around 2010, so I was being prescribed very heavy doses of opioids, and I quickly learned that when you stop taking them, you go into physical withdrawal. So I fought that mixed with my chronic pain and trying to go to school pre-med to get set up for medical school. I lasted about a year at the University of Minnesota before I had to drop out. I couldn't tolerate the pain and chasing the painkillers anymore. Got married when I was 27. She was the love of my life. We were on the same path to medical school, and she ended up getting accepted to medical school. So we moved to Albany, New York, and when we moved to Albany, New York, a lot of things went very dark for me. I tried transferring from pain clinic to pain clinic, and when I got to New York, they told me that the wait list to get into the pain management clinic was 6 months. So that meant that I had no way of getting my pain under control other than going to the ER. Without any kind of pain management, I looked to the streets. And just like you hear in all the other clinics or all the other articles and papers, I was your typical ran out of pain pills and found stuff on the street that led to heroin. It's hard to think about that even right now. Now I have the scars to prove that I was a heroin user. I was able to get into the treatment center at the Albany, New York VA. They had a Suboxone treatment program, so I enrolled in that. And I did well. I did very well for about 2 years. I was working at a nuclear site. We were actually doing nuclear demolition of a site that used to extract and enrich uranium for nuclear weapons back in the 50s, and our job was to demolish this. So again, with my job experience, I was very fortunate that I wore the bubble suits again. So I had a wonderful job, I was stable, and then in my wife's last year of medical school, we were so excited. After physicians graduate from medical school, they do what's called tracking. And tracking is when you complete medical school and you find out where your residency is going to be. We were 100% sure we were going to be coming back home to Minnesota. So I put my 2 weeks in, and we had made arrangements to be moving, had the moving van, had everything packed, and then we found out that my wife actually will be doing residency in Albany, so we were going to be stuck there for another 3 years. This put me into a heavy depression, and now I'm unemployed. My addiction took off again. After struggling, going through many treatment facilities in New York, and my wife finishing her residency, we finally moved back home. Back home to Minnesota. I thought the geographical change was going to be amazing for me, which it was. It was wonderful to be around family. But now I didn't have a job. I found the Minneapolis VA and the addiction recovery service program at the VA, and they're amazing people. I ended up being enrolled in the methadone program because, not from addiction, fortunately I'd been away from heroin and needles and all that stuff for some time at this point, but I still had chronic pain, and chronic pain is incredibly challenging to deal with on its own, but you add addiction on top of it and it can really become a difficult quality of life. So I think this, combined with all of the other issues, led to me being divorced. The love of my life, who told me every day that she was so excited to spend the rest of her life with me, came to me the day after Christmas and said, "I'm not in love with you anymore." And just weeks prior to that, we had picked out baby names because we were going to start trying to have kids. This is now 2021. Now the pandemic hit. I'm divorced now. I also had my dog who had become diabetic, and this was my dog that I'd gotten her in the last year of my military service, and so she'd been through everything with me. And she'd saved my life many times over. I knew that my life was in the scariest part of the story that I could have ever imagined. I wanted to die. I started using again when she left. I had no problem with using, and if that killed me, that would be okay. But having her still there and taking care of Maya, my dog, at that point is what kind of kept me going. Fortunately, I was able to still be in contact with the ARS program at the VA. My counselor, Greg Kirschling, has been an amazing human being, and and he, along with Dr. Dickman, who runs the program, mentioned a program called Warrior's Path at every third Saturday. At this point, my dog was dying, and I was too. I thought that I knew my dog was gonna die soon, but I had to do something. So I interviewed with John Engfer and Tom McKenna at every third Saturday. And I told them my story. And they were so helpful and authentic, and they cared about me when I didn't care about myself. They told me I was a good candidate for the program, so I started showing up for the 5-week program. That was the first time in a long time I had felt the camaraderie that I had so desperately missed in the military. I made friends. I met people that cared about me. And I couldn't believe it. I ended up completing the program, and I was so proud. And my dog was still alive. But then shortly after the program, life hit again. I had to put my dog down. Going home to an apartment that used to share with my wife and my dog and my cat is now empty. I fell away from every third Saturday and started isolating again. A couple months down the road, I had so much shame and guilt for not staying in touch with ETS. And I get a phone call, a text, and an email from John Engfer. And it was a personal one. It wasn't something that was just forwarded. He asked me how I was doing. And I replied and told him I wasn't doing so hot. And he told me to come back. We're better when you're better. And I wanted so badly to believe that he was just BSing me. But I started showing back up. I started showing back up. I think that is the most important thing about this whole program is it's an amazing opportunity that I can guarantee will change your life for the better. But you have to do the work, and I've discovered that. When I fell off, but when I came back, people remembered my name, and I hadn't even seen them in almost a year, and that blew my mind. These people care, and this program is amazing. I'm so grateful to be here, to be a part of it, to be part of this every third Saturday crew, this team, because we care about everyone. And today, that is something that's very hard to come by. I love this program. They've shown me how to love myself. Today, I'm honestly grateful.